It may seem improbable at first, but Europe does indeed physically border Africa. And no, we're not talking about ferries crossing the Mediterranean. We're talking about European land that physically exists within African borders. This is one of the strangest facts in modern geography, but how is that possible? On Morocco's northern coastline, nestled against the sparkling blue waters of the Mediterranean Sea, sit two Spanish cities, Ceuta and Melilla. They're officially fully governed parts of Spain, and by extension, the European Union. These cities are equipped with Spanish schools, public hospitals, local governments, and bustling shopping streets. They even use the euro, yet they're surrounded by Moroccan territory. But how did these two countries get this bizarre geopolitical setup? And why would Spain still cling to tiny pockets of territory surrounded entirely by Morocco? Today we're going to unravel the tangled history threads behind Ceuta and Melilla, two Spanish enclaves creating one of the strangest borders on Earth. Ceuta is located to the west, right across from the southern tip of Spain, separated only by the narrow Strait of Gibraltar. It covers around 18 square kilometers and has a population of roughly 83,000 people. About 250 kilometers to the east lies Melilla, slightly smaller at 12 square kilometers, home to approximately 86,000 residents as well. Both cities enjoy special fiscal regimes, exempt from value-added tax and offering sharply reduced corporate and income taxes, which turn them into retail havens and logistics hubs. As a result, they attract daily waves of Moroccan shoppers and traders, fueling a vibrant cross-border economy far out of proportion to their small size. And then there's something even weirder. On the Mediterranean coast, about halfway between Ceuta and Melilla, lies Peñón de Vélez de la Gomera, a rocky peninsula just 400 meters long. It's a Spanish military outpost with no civilian population, but it connects to Morocco via a natural sandbar just 85 meters wide, making it the shortest international land border in the world. That's less than the length of a football field. These three areas form what's known as the Spanish Plazas de la Soberanía, places of sovereignty, and they are legal and political anomalies. To a first-time visitor, it's confusing. One moment you're in Morocco, walking past Arabic signs and North African markets. The next, you're standing in a Spanish plaza, surrounded by European architecture, street signs in Spanish, and people speaking Castilian. The border crossings are heavily fortified and guarded 24/7. For Spain, these cities are just another part of the national map. Like Madrid or Barcelona, they fly the Spanish flag, pay Spanish taxes, and vote in Spanish elections. But the reality on the ground is far more complex. These cities are gateways between two worlds, Europe and Africa, Christianity and Islam, wealth and struggle. And they're not just important because of where they are, they're important because of how they got there. Spain didn't just stumble into owning African land. This was no accident. It was centuries in the making, a story of conquest, crusades, and empire building. So how did it all begin? Why would Spain fight for small slivers of land across the sea? To understand why Spain controls land inside Morocco today, we have to go back more than 5 centuries, before Spain was even a unified country and long before Morocco gained independence. The roots of this strange border trace all the way back to the early 15th century, an era of knights, crusades, and global empires in the making. It all began in 1415, when the Portuguese launched a surprise attack and seized the North African port of Ceuta. At the time, Ceuta was a wealthy and strategic city that controlled key trade routes through the Strait of Gibraltar. Taking Ceuta gave Portugal not just a military advantage, but access to gold, spices, and other riches flowing from sub-Saharan Africa into the Mediterranean. This conquest was the first time a European power successfully took and held land in Africa during the Age of Exploration, and it inspired others. By the late 1400s, Spain had unified under the Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella and had just completed the Reconquista, the centuries-long campaign to reclaim the Iberian Peninsula from Muslim rule. In 1492, Granada fell, and in the very same year, Columbus set sail for the New World. But Spain wasn't just looking west, it also turned its attention south. Just 5 years later, in 1497, Spanish forces captured Melilla, another fortified port city on Morocco's coast. Over the next few decades, Spain continued establishing small coastal outposts along the North African shore. Fortresses like Peñón de Alucemas and Peñón de Vélez de la Gomera. These were meant to stop pirate attacks and guard vital sea lanes, but they also served a deeper purpose, to expand Spanish influence across the Mediterranean and challenge Islamic power in North Africa. Then came a political plot twist. In 1580, Spain and Portugal merged under a single crown. During this Iberian Union, Ceuta, originally Portuguese, fell under Spanish administration, and when the two kingdoms split in 1640, Ceuta made a pivotal choice: to stay Spanish. That decision sealed Spain's foothold in Africa for centuries. The 19th and 20th centuries brought a new wave of colonialism as European powers scrambled for territory across Africa. In 1912, Morocco officially became a French protectorate, but Spain carved out its own zone of influence in the north. Spanish Morocco included vast coastal areas, but interestingly, Ceuta and Melilla were treated differently. They were considered integral provinces of Spain, not colonial possessions. So when Morocco gained independence in 1956, France handed over its protectorate. Spain returned many of its territories as well, but not Ceuta, not Melilla, and not Peñón de Lebeles. To Spain, these lands weren't colonies, they were Spanish soil. But to Morocco, this felt like a betrayal. Why should European soldiers and flags remain planted on African land after colonialism had supposedly ended? Thus, a line was drawn, not just across the land, but across national memory. A quiet conflict had begun, and it had never truly been resolved. In the modern world, these borders have become Europe's most fortified frontiers. Ceuta and Melilla are surrounded by massive border fences, 6 to 10 meters high, topped with barbed wire, motion sensors, and watchtowers. Spain calls it security. Morocco calls it a wall of exclusion. Either way, it's where Africa meets Europe and desperation meets opportunity. Thousands of migrants from sub-Saharan Africa attempt to cross these borders every year, hoping to enter the European Union. Some swim around the fences, others storm the gates in massive groups, risking injury or death. In 2022, more than 2,000 migrants stormed Melilla's fences in a single day, the largest mass crossing attempt ever recorded. At least 23 people lost their lives. The European Union funds these fences, viewing Ceuta and Melilla as the EU's southern border. Spain deploys its Guardia Civil here, alongside drones and infrared cameras, but Morocco also plays a role, stopping migrants on its side, often under quiet diplomatic agreements. And here's where it gets tricky. Morocco treats migration like a pressure valve. When diplomatic tensions rise, say over Spain's position on Western Sahara, Morocco has been accused of loosening its border patrols, letting waves of migrants surge towards Spanish soil. In 2021, over 8,000 people crossed into Ceuta in just 2 days. Many were children. It wasn't random. It followed Spain's decision to host a Western Sahara independence leader for medical treatment. These border cities aren't just about territory, they are chess pieces in a bigger geopolitical game. But why doesn't Morocco just demand them back? To understand that, we need to look at national identity, politics, and one very complicated claim. Morocco considers Ceuta and Melilla to be occupied territories, period. The Moroccan government never officially accepted their status as Spanish land, not in 1956 when independence was declared, and not today. For Moroccans, these enclaves are painful symbols of colonialism that still haven't been undone. And yet, unlike other territorial disputes, Morocco hasn't gone to war over them. It hasn't taken the issue to the International Court of Justice either. Instead, Morocco uses diplomacy in symbolism, like excluding the cities from official Moroccan maps or calling them occupied zones in government statements. Successive Spanish governments publicly stress that Ceuta and Melilla are as Spanish as Sevilla, underscoring a broad domestic consensus that enclaves are non-negotiable parts of the country. They've been under Spanish rule for over 400 years, Spain argues. That stance isn't just political posturing. Nationwide polls show strong public support for defending the enclaves, and every major party backs their protection. Meanwhile, local residents have repeatedly made it clear in surveys and referendums they want to remain Spanish. This puts the two countries in a permanent stalemate. Morocco keeps up political pressure, and Spain doubles down on border control. It's also complicated by Morocco's own unresolved claims. For decades, Morocco has claimed Western Sahara, a former Spanish colony, is its territory, though United Nations still considers it a disputed region. Spain's ambiguous stance on Western Sahara has often caused diplomatic rifts. Whenever Spain leans towards supporting Western Saharan independence, Morocco responds with tough rhetoric about Ceuta and Melilla. It's a constant tug of war. But there's another layer to this tension, something few people talk about. The cities themselves are evolving. and that evolution is slowly changing the border's future. Walk through Melilla or Ceuta today, and you'll see something fascinating. Despite the walls, despite the tension, the cities of Ceuta and Melilla are becoming cultural hybrids, blending Europe and Africa, even as new walls rise around them. Arabic is spoken alongside Spanish. Halal food markets exist next to tapas bars. Around half the population in both cities is of Moroccan or Amazigh descent. Many residents have family just across the border, and every day thousands of Moroccan workers cross legally to work in Spanish homes, shops, and factories. These cities are microcosms of Europe and Africa, coexisting in uneasy harmony. But there's a growing sense of isolation. The EU's tightening of borders, combined with Morocco's rising nationalism, has made movement more difficult. In 2018, Morocco restricted cross-border workers. Then, in 2020, both Spain and Morocco shut down land borders due to COVID-19, and they remained closed until 2022. That pause changed everything. Businesses collapsed, families were separated, and people began to question how sustainable this shared border setup really is. Meanwhile, far-right political voices in Spain have called for even tougher security, while some in Morocco have called for economic boycotts of Spanish goods. And yet, the cities endure. They remain peaceful. They vote, they trade, they celebrate festivals together, and despite everything, they keep moving forward. But the question remains, can this balance last forever? Well, only time will tell. What we know is that the future of this border will depend on more than fences or flags. It will come down to cooperation on migration, trade, culture, and security. Now that you know how Spain owns land in Africa, do you think it's fair or outdated colonial legacy? Share your take in the comments and subscribe for more thought-provoking content like this.